What's good in your hood? It's Boo's Views. You know you were waiting. You were waiting on my titties to be shaking. Don't lie. But you better not tune out after I shake my titties. Because some of you guys do that. You'll message me and be like, I just tuned in to watch you shake your titties. Motherfucker, you ain't shit. You need to tune in tonight because I have somebody very special on my show tonight. I'm going to introduce him in just a moment. He's someone I've known for 10 years. We go way back. We're down like 4 flat tires. In fact, one of his birthdays, I hosted his birthday party way back 10 years ago. It's been a decade. It's been a dime.
Man.
Right?
Yup.
And he's here tonight. He was also on my radio show back in the day when I started on radio, back before online radio is what it is today. I had to bring back an oldie but a goodie, and he's not old. He still looks young. And so without further ado, let me just go ahead and introduce him. Jesse! What's good, Jesse?
What's good? What's good? It's great to be here. Great to be here.
I'm so glad to have you back.
Yeah, I'm so good to be here. It's 10 years since we did our last radio show.
It's been too long.
It's a great opportunity to sit here and catch up live in front of your great audience here at Power 108.9. It smells good in here. Like my man said, the mic is sanitized. The energy is good. She made sure she had a drink ready for me when we came in. So, you know what I'm saying? We're going to have a very unfiltered, flowing, unadulterated, honest conversation today. And I look forward to having that with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's my pleasure. I mean, you drove all the way from Buckhead. And, I was telling Jesse earlier that, when I was planning my shows, I was like, I want to have some really good guests. And I started thinking back to who was there for me from the very beginning. And I was like, can you show me who I need to bring on? And so then I left it to the universe to figure out the details for me, as I often do. And then I was on Instagram one day, a couple hours later, after I asked the universe this question, and Jesse's post showed up on my timeline. And I said, oh my gosh, I need to ask Jesse to be on my show, because he was on 10 years ago. You had the Gentleman's Roundtable.
Yeah.
What happened to the Gentleman's Roundtable?
The Gentleman's Roundtable is still happening, but it's in an unpublished format. But I want to give you a shout out real quick and show a little bit of love to you as an entrepreneur, as a woman, as a mother, as a woman that's embracing herself, her sensuality, her sexuality, her powerhouse movements and media. And I really appreciate your confidence. You stand up for independence, no matter what naysayers say or good sayers say. If that's a statement, I don't know if that's grammatically correct or proper.
Yeah.
You still show up as yourself unapologetically, and
Thank
I have
you.
to give you some kudos for that. So, cheers to all the confident women. Those turning in today. Cheers to youve for continuing to lead the charge for confident women in media and keep doing your thing as a mother and as a businesswoman.
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that. We just had a conversation before we started the show, and I was telling him that, I haven't always been this confident. But after you've gone through lots of life experience, after you've had a child, once you reach past 40, it just kind of comes with the territory. Listen, but I appreciate that shout out. Thank you so much. It's nice
You're
to
welcome.
be acknowledged.
You deserve it.
Yeah, thank you. So you were on my show 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I brought you on. You had a group of gentlemen called the Gentleman's Roundtable.
Mm-hmm.
So they're unpublished now. So
yeah, so
I love the concept, though.
The concept is gentlemen sharing conversations around business, life, relationships, and society.
Yeah.
Those conversations are still happening. I think it's definitely needed in these times because as you can look on social media and digital media and popular television, it feels like the conversation is kind of dominated by women. And that's great. I mean, it's great to hear things from a female perspective. But I feel like there's an unpublished story of the gentleman's perspective.
Totally.
You go on social media and every day you could kind of hear a lot of negative things and perceptions about gentlemen, relationships, dating, us not properly asserting our roles within life and relationships. Some of it is true, but there is a lot of undocumented, unpublished conversations of gentlemen that are out here doing it right. And I feel like between myself and my group of friends that there's an opportunity to set the record straight. One, for education, and for two, to just stand up for who we are. Like, you standing up and being who you are as a man isn't something that you should receive applause for. However, if there's such an overwhelming amount of stories of men not showing up incorrectly, it's important that we shout out the men who are showing up the right way as well.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. And I'm guilty of that. We do need to shout that out. This is why I wanted to have you on my show, because 10 years ago, do you mind telling the audience your age 10 years ago?
Nope, I don't want to tell them. I want to keep it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's not telling you your age. All right, so it's a secret.
But I'm grown though.
But he's a grown-ass man, all right? Yeah. Okay, but 10 years ago, well, when did the Gentleman's Roundtable start? Because it started long before 10 years ago
I don't know, it's like 2009, 2010.
Okay, so a little
and
over
shout
10
out to
years
Jarvis
ago.
Robinson and John Birdsong and the group of gentlemen that, helped and support that with Joe Dews and a couple other people. But yeah, it was a good conversation that we started. And this was like kind of before the digital wave was really like prominent, as prominent as it is today.
Yeah.
But yeah, like today, let's look at today as an opportunity to keep that conversation going. So let's keep that energy going.
Just the title alone, Gentleman's Roundtable, is a very simple name, but it's very classic, which is why I like it. Because even though it's a simple name, it's catchy, but it's classic and timeless. And I don't think there's enough gentlemen speaking up. The perception is chivalry is dead, which is why I wanted you on here, Jesse, because you're one of the few men in the industry who are a gentleman. And and maybe few is the wrong word. You're one of the some.
Okay. I like that. I like that reframing.
One of the some. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to bring a gentleman on here to represent the fellas so we can break these myths. But before we get into the topic.
Okay.
The topic of tonight, which is dating myths in the entertainment industry. Ooh. And can a man in the entertainment industry be faithful versus a man who is in a 9-to-5? But before we get into all of that, I want the audience to first get to know a little bit about you first, so they know who you are and who they're hearing from. So tell us, like, who you are. Where are you from originally?
Jesse Mills. I'm originally from Columbia, Maryland. Oh. Shout out to Howard County.
All right.
Shout out to the team formerly known as the Washington Redskins.
Oh.
Shout out to the Washington Wizards. Shout out to the Baltimore Orioles. I'm a home team guy and a lifer at heart. But we are sitting in the heart of the Battery. So I have to also shout out the Braves because I have been in Atlanta for a while, as you guys may know. Yeah. I attended Clark Atlanta University, pursued my degree in marketing. Had a penchant for creativity, and I liked the direction of culture at that time. And from there, I grew and worked with a couple corporations and within the PR and marketing fields and lifestyle industries. And had then from there worked through luxury retail and then founded my own agency. My agency specializes in helping people brand brilliantly and businesses brand brilliantly through social media and the digital space, as well as through creating great experiences. So, I think that nowadays there's an opportunity to show especially now that we're in like a post-COVID endemic phase, to show how the social media space and the experiential physical spaces can work together to tell compelling brand stories and to bring narratives to life. And there's this dominant phrase called content nowadays that people use, and I like the idea of storytelling. Yeah. Content doesn't have any character or flavor to it, and I'm an artist. And it's like my job is to bring and illuminate these stories of businesses to life so they can connect in their audience in a compelling and intimate way.
Is it something that came natural to you? I mean, what made you go into that industry?
I know my sister's listening in. Shout out to Kai.
Shout out to your sister.
I call her Kai. I know she's listening in. I've been branding since birth.
Wow.
And so we all have, though.
This is
us just tapping into that. Our parents named us. That's our identity. And a lot of times people look at branding from the business sense through people, places, and ideas. But when you look at it in terms of who you are and as a form of identification, the same way you show your ID, the same way you build your reputation, that's how brands are established. So we've all been branding since birth. It's just our opportunity to have a paradigm shift so we tap into our natural power of branding and illuminate that to our audiences.
Damn, that's deep. We've been branding ourselves since birth.
You have a name, you went to an elementary school, you played sports. There's a lot of things within your story that are tied to your brand intricately and intimately that you need to share. And it's like, my job is helping people identify with recognizing the inherent internal and natural power of branding that they've had within themselves from the start.
Wow, that's deep. So what would be your advice to someone, whether it's an individual or a company, that's trying to brand themselves on social media? What is the one piece of advice? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of advice you can give, but what's the one thing that you would give companies that you think is missing?
The thing that I think is missing is not being so trend heavy. A lot of times people are trying to hop on reels and use the trendiest song. They're trying to create content based on what their competition is doing, but they haven't necessarily identified their unique voice. And like I said earlier,
Wow.
our voice was unique before it was muddled down, before we started looking to the left and the right. We had a unique voice and sound. So tapping into the authentic brand voice and character that you inherently have, and
That's
thinking
deep.
of why you started, tapping into that why. I talked to a client who's in the real estate industry the other day, and I said, yes, you're selling homes, but what is your why? You're not just selling bricks and cement. You're giving people access to financial freedom. And she said, you know what? That's right. I want to help people build wealth. And I said, you're using homes and real estate as a commodity to connect people to a legacy of wealth, something that they could pass on to future generations. So let's have the legacy conversation and the wealth building conversation. Of course, we need to sell homes. We need to show carousels. We need to have reels. We need to show closing days. But how can we tap into the generational wealth that you're creating for families in Smyrna, in Sewanee, in Buckhead, in Midtown? Because you're allowing them to tap into a source that you have access to. You're literally and figuratively handing them to the key to a better and more profitable financial future, not just for them, but also for their generations to come.
You know, I wasn't planning on going this direction with the conversation, but because you said that, it's actually leading me to this next question. Because when I look at real estate pages and a lot of realtor pages, what I see is pictures of a lot of homes, and it just says sold, or, congratulations, this person bought this. And you see that over and over and over again. So from what you just said, do you think it would be beneficial? And I'm just using a realtor as an example. Now, if you're tuning in, shouts out to the audience that's tuning in. Use this in your own life, in your own business, or whatever it is you're trying to do. If you're an individual just trying to grow your social media, would you suggest that they need to do more personalized videos of themselves? Do you think that someone buying a home is going to choose a realtor based on if they have a connection with that realtor more so, or just someone who's like got an Instagram and they've got tons of nice homes on it?
I know what you're going with that.
Yeah.
For one, you have things that work differently for different audiences, right? And so it's important for you to understand through testing, through trial, and through optimization, which means trying different things and seeing what works best, to tap into what's going to work best for your authentic voice and also your audience. So you want to be authentic, and you also want to pique interest with your audience. So it's a combination of an art and a science, right?
Yes.
But on the
absolutely.
most simplistic level, your story is not binary. And I hate when we look at it as this or that. Do I have to post homes, or do I need to have heartfelt stories about why I started?
Okay.
You know what
Gotcha.
the beautiful thing about this is? God gave us 7 days in a week, and we have 7 days to tell different stories on our social media pages. So you have different days where you could talk about your origins and why you started and who's your inspiration and your mentor in the industry. You have another day where you could talk about closing days. And so think about how you can look at things not through limitations and blocks or binary choices, but through telling the full authentic story. So many times we just talk about the houses and we don't talk about the why, and we don't talk about the soul behind it. How can we show the full scope and breadth of what I'm doing day to day? Because you're going to have a day in the life, you're going to have a closing, you're going to be meeting with a lender, you're going to be talking about credit. All of those things tie into wealth and legacy building through real estate.
See, this is why I asked you that question. You just answered it so beautifully. Because if I'm purchasing a home and I don't know any realtors and I happen to come on Instagram, I'm going to connect more with the person who has layers and dimensions to their Instagram, not just the homes that they're posting. because any realtor can sell a beautiful home, but if they're also including different dimensions, like, well, how they got started, if they have a story about themselves that's a little bit more personalized, everything encompassed in one, and I might feel a connection to their story.
Right.
And then I'll be like, oh man, this is the realtor for me.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because and I've done sales before back in my day. And one of the things they teach you in sales, and tell me if you agree or not, Jesse, is one of the reasons why people buy from you is because of you.
Right. Right.
So your brand is you.
Yup. And it's important that you tap into that. And that's where the authentic story goes back to you. Your authentic voice, your style, your flow. It's going to relate to people in different ways.
I love that. Thank you for answering that question. So, people, I hope you're taking notes. We have got the brand master. You need to change your title to, but I know that might sound a little cocky, huh?
I think that confidence is a great asset. Cockiness is depending on the opinion of the audience. Sometimes we don't need to get tied into that.
That's true, because if they
just need to show up.
Right.
If you want to
you're the brand master.
If you want to look good and you want to own your titles, I appreciate you endowing me with that credential. I accept that. I embrace those good things. I handed my friend some money a little while ago, and he said, "I've had trouble accepting gifts. I've had trouble accepting value from other people. I've spent time with women that said, I've had trouble accepting positive gestures, even just recently." And it's like, wow, I have to recondition myself to accept titles of master, to accept being served, and knowing that can come from a pure and authentic place.
My sister was actually the one that checked me on that, because you just said something so profound. I had a hard time accepting gifts and compliments at one time in my life. And she told me, she said, you steal the joy from people that actually want to gift you.
Man, what?
And give you a compliment.
And you also
because
do a disservice.
You have too much, right. You have too much pride. You're too proud. And I said, no, that's not it. I'm just too humble. And she said, well, when someone gifts you or someone pays you a compliment, just say thank you, because you're robbing them of the joy of wanting to give that to you. And I was like, damn, I never thought about that.
Yeah. It could come from a good place. And you also looking at your ancestors and your legacy. My mom invested in me. My parents provided me the genetics to be the man I am today, right? My looks come from them. They don't come from me. I didn't create my look. It came from the author, the creator, right? It came from God and my parents, right? Yeah. My sisters, when I was leaving the house when I was younger, was the one that took the spit and the crust out of my eye. You feel me? And so if I don't accept a compliment, I'm discrediting everything that these people have invested in me. Those teachers that pulled you aside and said, you need to go harder. That coach that told you need to hit another rep in the gym. Think about it not just as an individual thing, but in the African community, we talk about taking a village. And I'm West African. My family's from Ghana. And it's like, it's important that we take those compliments not on an individualistic level, but on a village level.
That's deep. That's deep. Yeah. Well, if someone pays me a compliment now, I say thank you. I mean, hell, she told me that and snapped me out of it. Every time. Okay, so is branding your passion? What if you weren't doing branding and throwing sexy ass events, which we're going to get into in a minute, because I've been going to your events for
all right.
I was one of the OGs at his events.
Yep.
And 10 years later, you're still putting them on. Is it your passion?
That's an interesting question. I don't look at what I do for businesses on social media and in consulting or experiences that are created for brands and people as like a thing. I just look at it as extensions to connect with people. So yes, the passion is connecting and making people feel better and more valued. Now that can translate through social media, that could translate through events, that could translate through day-to-day interactions with somebody I'm seeing at the gas station. So when you say passion, the passion is to add value. The commodity and the service and or the thing that you're paid for or your vocation is the channel in which that's delivered.
Jesse, I've known you for 10 years and I never knew that that's why you did it. So you should tell people that outside of here on the show, because, everyone may not be tuning in that's following you on your page.
Well, that's the beauty of, we had this guy, Mike, right? He's an engineer.
Yeah.
And he greeted us here and he set us up, and he's doing all the behind the scenes stuff. And he's going to send us this video, right? and it's called a recap video. And he's making sure the audio and everything is good. He's about, y'all can't see it, but there's about 4 cameras in here, right? And Mike is behind the scenes snickering right now, like a little boy.
He can hear you. They can hear him.
And so he's going to send a video, which is going to allow me to tell this story to people that aren't live streaming.
Okay.
And so you guys here, this team is putting a battery on my back today, and I appreciate that.
We got you. Let me shout out the audience real quick. Everybody that's tuning in, shouts out to D. Davis, Gary Way, Brad Wellington Ellis, Robert Williams, Fred Rams. You guys, thank you so much for supporting us. Okay, so let me get on to my next question. You have been putting on some of the sexiest, most elite, classy, timeless events in Atlanta. And the reason why I've used those words to describe it is because it's been a decade. I started going to your events 10 years ago. And I've watched your Instagram over 10 years, and they are only getting sexier. And the only thing that's disappointing me is that I haven't been here to experience them all.
Well, Clearwater.
I'm in Florida now.
One flight away. I got a lot of points, so let's figure this out.
Okay, but my question for you is, Jesse. Okay, for the audience who doesn't know me prior to having a child, I used to be a party animal, okay? I mean... a tame party animal. When I say party animal, I don't want you to picture me on like a bar doing shots of tequila. I'm just saying I used to be in a circle because I was in a relationship most of my life. And when I got to Atlanta, I got out of that relationship. So there were a few years where I got out and I was partying. And some of the best, hands down, events that I went to was Jesse's. Like when Jesse would invite me to an event, I was going to his event because number one, I knew I'd be taken care of as far as being comfortable. I'd have drinks. I knew the music would be good. I knew the crowd would be... okay, I don't want to sound bougie or stuck up, but it would be a classy crowd. Mm-hmm. Now, I can do the ratchet. I can do the less classy crowd. I've done that, but that's not really my taste and my style. There's nothing wrong with that. So again, don't take what I'm saying as an insult. It's just my taste. My personal style is more of a classy, upscale, sexy vibe. So Jesse, how have you been able to do it for this long?
Man, well, thank you. The thing is, it's like you have to know what's for you and what isn't. So if you're looking as a business person at a market and you're saying most of the events and experiences are skewing in one direction and I authentically don't speak that conversation, how can I create a space for myself and potentially people like me to enjoy themselves? One thing that I think we have to focus on in events more is ensuring the safety and security of women. That should be your first and foremost concern. And then once you make sure that there's good security, you make sure there's comfortable, you make sure you limit the amount of creeps. There's always going to be creeps, but you try to limit the amount of creeps that are in the room by carefully selecting the people in the audience who have seen a woman before of substance, of high value. You try to have a few people like that in the room. Yeah. Sometimes it's more challenging than others, but hopefully I try to congregate as many men that can respect women in the room as possible. Yeah. And then, secondly, you have to make sure there's good food and drinks. If you're in a dining establishment. And then the third part, I think that really creates a tone and a vibe in the room is having the right music and making sure it's the right mix, 90s, 2000s to current with a little bit mix of trap. So it's like that level where it's like, like I'm living a certain way and I value these sensibilities in terms of my comfort, my space, how I'm coming out the house, but I also like to have a good time. So it's the balance between security, entertainment, and really enjoyment, because we work so hard, and it's important that we get that release when we're leaving the house. We're putting our outfit together, we're getting our girls together, we celebrating this weekend, we're getting our homeboys together to celebrate a birthday. It's real important those couple times we have a week to step out, and it might be a couple times a month for some people.
Right. And a couple times a year for some people. It
might be a couple times a year. So it's important that we take those experiences that we're curating for people very, very seriously. And so that's something that I don't take lightly to ensure that that's delivered on a consistent basis.
Well, Okay, we're going to take a break. That was a beautiful answer, by the way. I don't think a lot of people put that much thought and detail in their damn events. Again, if you're someone who wants to put in on events, you need to take notes because Jesse just gave you the recipe. He literally handed it to you on a silver platter. But we're going to go on a break, and when we return, we're going to go into the topic. Does a man in Jesse's field, lifestyle entertainment industry, can he meet a connection, like make a real connection with a woman? Is he sleeping around with all these women that are showing up at his events? And can a man in this industry be more faithful, or can he be faithful versus a guy who has a regular 9 to 5? We're going to answer all these questions when we come back on The Naked Truth. Stay tuned, Booze Views. Don't move. You ain't got shit to do. You know you got fired from your job today anyway. What's good? We're back. Booze Views, The Naked Truth. I'm on with Jesse Builds Brands. Jesse, I'm so glad to have you on.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
So we're going to get into this topic, okay? So you're in the lifestyle entertainment industry, and there's a lot of, misconceptions, and I want you to set the record straight. Keep it raw, keep it real, keep it 100. So a lot of people, they might look at your Instagram, and they may not know you from a can of paint. They see all these beautiful women. They see you, that you're an attractive looking man. You're obviously very smart, successful, entrepreneur. You're a catch. But then they see all these beautiful women. So the perception is you must be sleeping with all these women.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it.
So what
is the question?
So the question is, are you sleeping with all of these women?
No. Mm-mm.
Do you think
I'm sexually active, but I'm not sleeping with all the women on my Instagram.
Okay. Well, there's your answer. Okay, well, let's back up. Let me back up. Let's give the audience some background, some history. Are you single?
I'm single, yeah.
Okay. You're single. Are you dating?
I have a few friends.
Okay. Read between the lines, people. Are you wanting something serious?
I'm always in a position where I'm accepting something good to enter my life. So it's not like something that I want or don't want at different times, but I'm always open to meeting somebody that's willing to partner and grow on a deep level.
Now, this is a question that I didn't, and you don't have to answer it, but this is a question, and just for the audience, just so they know, I usually tell my guests the questions that I'm going to ask them. Sometimes I tell them I may not, because there's the element of surprise that I want for the show. This is not a question that I mentioned that I was going to ask you. So, Do you believe in monogamy?
I do believe in monogamy. I think it's important. But I also think that you need to have an approach to relationships that is progressive. For some people, that doesn't work. But I do think it's a good recipe and a formula for me. Okay, so for you.
So, because, there's good ladies tuning in. And I always get hit up whenever I have an attractive man on my show, and they're going to be asking, is he single? So, they're going to want to know your stats. Yeah. So, okay, ladies, you heard him. He said that monogamy could work for you.
Yeah, I think monogamy is a great thing.
Even being in the industry that you're in.
I think monogamy is a great thing with the right person. And I don't think monogamy is industry specific. I do believe that there are industries that have a deeper level of pressure than others, but I don't think it's industry specific.
I agree with that totally. So do you think that it's harder for a person who's in an industry like yours, in entertainment in general? They could be a musician, they could be an athlete, they could be
Barack Obama,
the president.
Yeah, imagine how many women he turns down every day that don't care about the fact that he's married and his daughter's on his Instagram.
That's a damn shame. Ladies, we gotta do better. Anyway, yeah, so then there's the guy who's the 9 to 5, who's a plumber, for example, or a dentist, for example.
And I want to dispel that. I think there's a misconception about, like, based on what industry you're in, you're more or less promiscuous or sexually active, which it isn't. It's not valid. The idea that an accountant that lives in Duluth is more faithful than somebody who is a high-powered lawyer or a businessman or somebody that works in the lifestyle or branding industries where they might be around women on a more basis. See, this is the thing that we have to really think about. it's like that person might be used to it, right? And so it's like you got to think about anything through the idea of like scarcity and just like relationship economics, right?
Yeah.
Just because something's always there doesn't mean that you partake in it. You know, it's something to where it's like you are mature, you have experienced things. Like when I do have my life partner, and when I'm, you know, lucky enough for that person to enter my life, and hopefully I'm prepared, you know, to be the great man for her in her life, there'll be experiences that I don't have to like be curious about. You know, being at events and stuff, you see men who are 40 plus who are just figuring out some cool sexual experiences with something that they wanted to experience that they never did in their 20s because they might have been a square and made money later in life and now have access to women. Whereas you have somebody who's like had access to that, and then when they get to the point of partnership, they're like, oh, I've had some experiences, I've seen what this is. I might have thought this was something good and it wasn't, but I don't need to be this older man who is in a monogamous relationship wondering what the weather is like or tipping my toe in the water because I've had quality experiences that preceded my relationship. And that doesn't mean being with everybody. That might be sitting at a table with a type of woman that you thought you might have desired or physically. It might be listening to them talk.
Right.
So
because you're not going to make a mental connection with everybody.
Exactly. And so the assumption that because somebody is around women that they're promiscuous or they're sleeping with them is invalid. The assumption that somebody is working in an office and they're more faithful or monogamous is invalid. The thing is that people are going to do what they're going to do. And for too long, service industry people and people that work in other industries, media, lifestyle, entertainment, have gotten a bad rap and assumptions about things because the opposite sex is around versus people who work in offices who are kind of like sometimes going crazy at the same events that person is hosting, and that nobody would necessarily say, oh, hey, this person is a so-and-so, this person is an accountant in Duluth, you know, out here acting crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, and social media can have you fooled because I've dealt with that, maybe not in the same experience that you have, but, you know, because the majority of the demographic of people that follow me are male, and most of the comments that I get are from men. So one would think that I have all these men, but like you said, when you get used to having something, that doesn't mean you always want it. So what about relationship permanency? Do you think that it's okay for people? I mean, you know, there's this misconception that you have to find your soulmate. You have to find the one.
Right. I think that we can adjust, like every person, like think about it from a percentage perspective. You're going to probably go on a handful of dates. You're going to meet a lot of people. You're going to interact with multiple people from the opposite sex. In the course of your entire life, maybe 2 or 3% of them will last in your life for a year or longer. If you really think about your interactions. Yeah. Right? 2 or 3% of them will last for a year or longer. Yep. So you should be able to rationalize and enjoy the other 98, 97% of interactions that you have. I agree. Focus on enjoying the experiences and meaningful connections with people. Sometimes that may not be your future life partner. Yeah. And not necessarily looking at every relationship through the lens of permanency, but allowing that relationship to manifest in the way that it should. Yeah. You know, it takes a lot of things to align to be with somebody, even for a year. But if you're out on a Tuesday night or you're meeting somebody that might not be your forever partner, is it wrong to enjoy the experience or the time or the season that person might be in your life? I think that we need to understand that a lot of relationships have seasonality, and doing that with grace and respect to the other person in the process of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, but here's my thing. A lot of men, you know, if a woman's in that situation and she's just dating and she may be horny one night, she's like, you know, I just want to have sex tonight. She gets labeled as a hoe, a slut, a whore. So a lot of women are reluctant to, you know, step into those waters.
Yeah, I think one of the things within society's consciousness is being able to embrace the confidence of a woman, and then being able to embrace a woman's confidence in their sexuality. Sometimes that woman is 40 plus. Sometimes that woman's in her 20s. Sometimes that person is just getting out of a marriage and was like, you know what? I just need a different vibe. I've been with this guy for like 8 years. And you know how it is when you're with somebody for multiple years. The last 2 or 3, you already were mentally checked out.
Yeah.
And then they stopped having sex, but they were taking pictures on Instagram every Christmas with matching pajamas, right? But
Not matching pajamas.
They weren't having sex.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
And so she gets out of the relationship. She's like, man,
Yeah.
it was cool and all. We were keeping up appearances, but you know what I'm saying? I might just need somebody to like, you know, lay it down and make me feel like a lady tonight, you know, and might tell me some things and might explore some things that she couldn't because she missed her 30s. She didn't necessarily miss her 30s, but she didn't have the time to explore sometimes in her 20s and 30s because she was married. And so it's like, yo, allow her to explore things sexually. Allow somebody to, you know, have fun. Allow a woman to have fun, and without a lot of labeling. I think women should be sexually confident and be allowed to have a good time.
Well, and you know, that's what holds a lot of women back. That's one of the reasons why I held back for a long time, is because we get labeled, and then, you know, men kiss and tell. They see it as a trophy, a badge of honor. Oh, guess who I smashed the other night? The Asian chick with the big ass. So, you know.
Yeah, so this is the thing. This is the thing. This is the thing, though.
Yeah.
Like, as men, that's where the respect comes in. You'll always have better sexual interactions with the woman that you're respecting. And no matter what happened, no matter how dirty or crazy it got, like, in terms of you mentioning that to other people and your respect that you have for that person, your ability to still treat her, you know, with the ultimate level of respect is the utmost importance. Exactly. No matter what interactions that you have, because we need to take the stigma away from sexuality in terms of it being slutty, and embracing sexuality as it's a woman operating in her profound femininity, and it's a special thing when you experience that. So why not uphold that to a high level?
You know, it's been ingrained in some people, and I think a lot of men that dog women out, and I shouldn't say men, boys, because I feel like men really understand what you just said. Mature, a grown ass, let me shout out all the grown ass, emotionally mature men who get that, because we don't have to deal with that shit when we deal with a grown ass, emotionally mature man. Intelligent, emotionally mature man.
Well, this is one of the things you have to realize, is that you have to act like you're used to it. Like, act like you got some before.
Right. Exactly.
Like, it doesn't have to be like it's not like breaking news, you know, CNN breaking news, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I got with a girl last night. It should be something that you embrace and you cherish and you enjoy while you're in it, but it don't have to be like it was the first time. Act like you got some before.
And fellas, take notes. From a woman's perspective, if we know you're the kind of man who keeps his mouth shut, you don't kiss and tell, and you're emotionally mature, and you look at it the way Jessie just laid it out, you're going to get the pussy more, and she's even going to be more turned on by you. Her sexuality is going to come out even stronger and heavier. She's going to be more of a freak for you because she knows she can trust your ass.
And you're not acting like you're brand new.
You ain't acting like a little ass, thank you, brand new, and a little ass bitch, because as soon as we find out you told one of your boys, you're going to get cut off.
And this is like, so me and my sister, we don't have a lot, because it's kind of awkward, but we don't have a lot of like conversations about the subject matter of sex because she's my sister, so I try to avoid it with her all cast.
Yeah.
But I do remember her listening to Snoop, and he has a line in this song called Sensual Seduction. Right?
Yeah.
And then on the hook, she says, she's going to get hers before mine. And so if you always make sure that a woman's getting hers before you get yours, and that she's respected, if she's a woman who believes in reciprocity, she'll always make sure you're getting taken care of.
Listen, he just said it. I don't even need to add more to that. You just heard the key. I need a damn drum roll in here or something. Some bongs. Fellas, I mean, I think most of my audience are mature men. But if you didn't know that, my God, may God help you. Okay, let's get into the next question. So for you personally, Jessie, because I know women are going to be asking me about you, especially after this interview. What is it that you specifically look for in a woman? What is it about her that connects you to her?
Man, it's like, one thing is like, there's been this culture of like, just like having sex and eating and just consuming. And it's just like a full, well-rounded woman and a term that you don't use a lot is lady nowadays. Does anybody ever? When is we last time we called women like classy and ladies? It's so popular to not be classy and not be a lady that I think that's kind of gotten lost. And to know that if a woman is sexually empowered and has a freaky side to her, that's still part of her operating in her femininity and her class of a woman, and you need to respect that, right?
Yep.
But it's like reciprocity, you know, and like thinking about the little things, checking in with you on your day. If you do stay at the night, like little things like making up the bed in the morning, you know, asking questions. It's some of these details that I think are lost and missed. Sometimes just saying thank you is a lost art. Really being tapped in. You'll mention something to somebody and they won't bring it up again because it's not necessarily connected to their need. And so a lot of the interactions, because of trauma that's caused by men, women are responsive by nature, right? And so a lot of their interactions have caused them to be jaded and emotionally callous. And so they approach relationships from a transactional lens. But I want to relate to a woman on a soulful level where I'm not just connecting with them transactionally in terms of wants, needs, low-natured carnal things, but tapping into who they are soulfully, who they are spiritually. How can we enjoy and share experiences together? And how we can experience life on a deeper and more profound level. And as two whole beings coming together, how can we complement each other on the journey and create a story in our future that is profound and lasting and that could really drive an impact in the world around us?
That's deep. So do you think that you've found that connection as of today?
I've met a few people in my life that I've experienced that in seasons and waves. It's one person in particular, 1 to 2 people in particular, where I've had really, really deep, loving relationships with, that I have experienced that. But I think when that comes into my life on a sustained level, that will be my like forever life partner. So my ability to sustain that from a man's perspective, being able to support that woman, provide for that woman, be a good friend to that person. Let's talk about friendship. It's very important in relationships.
Yes, it
being
is.
able to laugh together and experience life, check some passport stamps off, you know, build our real estate portfolio and investments together, do all of these things together, empower each other in the world, right?
Yep.
When I'm at the ability to do that and sustain that on a consistent level, and I also have a person who sees the value in what I'm stepping up to do, then I'll be out the gate for good, hopefully. So you just have to, it's the power of that aligning. I don't think you're supposed to meet that type of person often.
No.
Because these
absolutely
if
not.
we're looking for these unique qualities and compatibility, that's not something that should frequent us. That's not something that should be common. And I think that it's through experience and wisdom that we're able to identify those uncommon compatibility methods when they present themselves. And I think maturity and discernment allows us to identify those profound qualities in people once they present themselves to us.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because, if they came a dime a dozen, you wouldn't appreciate it when it shows up at your doorstep.
And it shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason we talked about the 98% earlier. You still should enjoy your life in between partners. Your time in between deep, loving, dating partners should not be a time of self-loathing and non-satisfaction and no sex. You should still enjoy the time in between you meeting your potential life partner.
So what would be your advice to, I guess, men, and then you can give your advice to women? What would be your advice? Let's start off with men who are looking for a connection, because you're around beautiful women all the time. You have the sexiest events, some of the best events in Atlanta, and you're around this. You know women. You
My
have
sister,
a sister. Yeah. So
I'm still learning. That's a lifetime. For us to think that we learn people as complex as women, and women weather changes more than Atlanta weather. You feel me? You feel me? So it's like, you're spending a lifetime as a man learning how to relate to a woman. So you need to be committed to learning and educate and studying and paying attention to women, their sensibilities, their idiosyncrasies, their details, their response to certain things. We have to be committed to learning and understanding them.
Lord, I said that on my last show.
And then, and then once, you kind of grow that, you also need to make sure that that woman is showing reciprocity. As a man, to be real, you gotta have and lead in terms of your life as a provider, not just in a financial sense, but in terms of thinking of how you can make that woman feel secure. Because you have to understand, in this time with social media and other things, a high value woman has so many different people coming to them from different touch points. And you got to think, okay, what am I offering that's different? Because you have people offering trips to Dubai and the Porsches and all of that stuff. But it's like, okay, cool. You might be able to offer those things, which is great.
Yep.
But what can you give that woman that will leave a lasting impression, that is a quality, intangible asset that she could take, that's going to make her every day walk more confidently and with her head held high, because she knows she has somebody strong backing her. And from a man's perspective, advice for men is like, focus on character. And of course we're going to be attracted to looks.
Yeah.
And looks are important. Who doesn't love a good looking woman? That's God's most beautiful creation, right?
Yeah.
So you're supposed to enjoy that and indulge in that and love that.
Yeah.
And uphold that. However, also examine them not just from the outer aspects, but look at them from a soulful perspective. Look at them from a character perspective. How is she talking on her social media? How is she moving in rooms? How does she respect people? How does she act? Is she trying to absorb, or is she trying to empower? And I think when you find somebody that has those qualities and the opportunity to build and educate and grow, because we're multipliers in a sense, and they're able to multiply the energy of the people around them in the room that's around them, and that's something that you have to feel in person. That's somebody that you should want to have around in your life, and you should want to maintain that.
Boy, hold on. I just gotta take a breath, because you just dropped a serious woo. Hold on, I need a drink after that. That was deep.
Well, we got this Jameson in here.
Wait,
We got this Jameson in here.
you didn't do your shot yet. Fellas, I hope you're taking notes. Jesse just broke it down for you. I couldn't have said it any better. He just took what was in my head and he just said it in better words than I could. He said it so much more eloquently than I could have. Listen, I said on my last show, the three things that women love in a man is a man who knows how to lead, provide, and protect. And when I posted this on my YouTube and on my social media, the clip from the show that women like a man who knows how to lead, provide, and protect, I got some pushback from some guys. So I want to know.
But did you get pushback from women on that?
No. Oh, hell no. All the women were like.
So this is the.
They were applauding it.
Look who gave you pushback. See what I'm saying?
Bingo.
And so a real man isn't afraid of that conversation.
Exactly.
And I think that you could look at the response in terms of, this is one of the things that's deep. In order to lead, provide, and protect, you have to work harder. Some people are afraid of the work that it takes to do that. You can't be afraid of the work.
And, some people when I said provide, they felt like some of the fellas thought it was just providing financially. And I said, no, it's not just in financial ways, because she might work and be bringing half the income to the table too. When I say provide, I don't mean just financially. Yes, we do want to know that if something happened to us, we have a child and I got to stay home and take care of the kids, that you can hold down the fort. But if I'm able to bring something to the table and I can bring half my income or more, then that's fine. What I mean by provide is also be able to provide support emotionally, mentally. If we're going through something, are you just a stone cold asshole?
Woman should be able to provide that to you,
and vice versa.
But you can't, as a man. There's certain things that women in details they need to put forth to you. But as a man, you can't run from the financial conversation. And it's like, you have to be willing to compete, and you have to be willing to compete in the business arena. and also with yourself first in order to excel. You don't see a lot of people who are competing and doing well in those arenas who are struggling to find relationships and partnerships.
Exactly.
And there's a reason why. That doesn't mean that person's super well-rounded, but that means that they're checking off some of the most important boxes. Now, when you have that woman, it's important that she sees that energy and she sees that work that you're putting in as a well-rounded man and is able to support you and to see, okay, cool, you took care of all the house stuff. You know what? We're going to go to Bali in 6 months. Being that you've taken the lead on this, you got the first home. I'm going to work on a vacation home. See, I don't like getting in conversations about bills. I like talk about legacy building. When you're talking about bills, the idea of legacy building is off the board.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Like,
that's a whole nother level of depth.
Let's take bills off the table and let's operate in legacy and growth together. So, like, yeah, I take care of okay, this is the first home. Okay, I'll take care of that. I'll make sure we're good. All the basics is covered. Cool. You know, like, okay, you work on the investment property while I might have my revenue tied up in this. You work on the investment property, or you might want to support in other ways. You might want to maybe do some of the other things that we could do to get ahead, because we always should be thinking about building and protecting and supporting our family and our future.
I said it. A woman likes a man who leads, provides, and protects. We have to have a part 2 to this show, Jesse, because you have given so much great feedback and wisdom in such a young age. I'm not going to tell his age, but before we go, because unfortunately our time is running out, but we are going to, Jesse, are you open to coming back on my show for a part 2 to this conversation?
Yeah,
because
definitely.
There's some questions that I didn't get to.
Yeah. Like, what's the station name? Is Power, right?
Power 108.9.
It's not weak. Mouth. It's not weak 108.9. This is Power. You feel me?
I feel
we gotta bring it. We gotta bring it.
So he's gonna be back for a part 2, but don't log off yet because I'm about to ask him a good question. What's something about you no one really knows that they'd be surprised to know? My close friends
know this, and my family knows this. But I'm really a homebody. So
I didn't know that.
I'm a candles, book, documentary.
Yeah.
I really like my comfortable space. There's people who have had the privilege to enjoy that space, or we've shared that space together. They know that I'm a very, very domestic, breakfast in bed. Like I like to create a vibe and to entertain from home. And I also am home most of the time. It's just that when I am out, those experiences are documented because the nature of my business requires me to document those experiences. But most of my experiences that are undocumented are happening domestically or in my home.
See, I never knew that. And I've known you for 10 damn years. So you guys have to come back when Jesse is on for a part 2, because I have other questions for him. Like, do you think location has a factor in the success of your dating relationship? Do you think it's worth it for a man of today to get married? Could you be in a relationship with a modern day woman? These are all questions we're going to get from Jesse when he comes back at some future time. But I have to go for now. I'm sorry, you guys. Thank you so much for everybody that tuned in to Vu's Views, the Naked Truth. Jesse, you have any last words? Where can they find you?
At Jesse Builds Brands. Brand Vista Social is our agency. And, thank you for being here today. Thanks to Mike. Thanks to the Power 108.9 family. Thanks to Views for having me. And I look forward to having more unfiltered, uncut, unadulterated, straight to the point conversations, because we need it.
We do need it. And we need you back on here on Power 108.9. We love you guys. Have a great hump day.
Let's get it.
Repeat after me. Whatever you do,